So if you're a leader in customer education, you know this feeling, right? You see the lights coming on for your customers. You see that engagement. But then budget season rolls around, and suddenly you're being asked to prove how all that great work impacts the one thing everyone's watching: revenue. How do we even do that? Well, let's dive into a framework that'll help you stop guessing about your impact and start knowing your true value.
And this quote, it just nails it. This isn't really about tracking data for the sake of tracking data. Nope. This is about building a rock-solid business case. It's about changing the conversation and turning your education program from a line item, a cost center, into a recognized, respected revenue driver. All right, here's our game plan. We've got 4 parts. First, we'll separate the metrics that just feel good from the ones that actually move the needle. Then, we'll figure out where your program is right now, find the metrics that really prove your impact, and finally, give you an action plan to put it all together. Okay, let's start with something that might be a little uncomfortable. For years, so many of us in this space have been obsessed with things like course completion rates. But here's the hard truth. While those numbers show activity, they absolutely do not prove business impact. And that's the big shift we have to make.
Just look at this slide, it lays it all out. On the left, you've got Vanity Metrics. They show that people are busy, they're clicking things. But on the right, those are value metrics. They show your program is delivering actual business results. Think about it. Your CFO's eyes are going to glaze over if you talk about completions. But when you talk about churn reduction or cost savings, now you're speaking their language. That's the language of the business.
You know, the issue isn't usually that we don't have enough metrics. Most of us are practically drowning in data. The real problem is we're not always measuring at the right level of maturity. So let's use this model as a kind of diagnostic tool to see where your program stands today.
So be honest with yourself, where do you fit? Are you at level 1, basically just hitting export on whatever your LMS spits out? Or maybe you're at level 2, really focused on making the trains run on time, being super efficient. But the real magic, that starts at level 3, where you can finally connect learning to what people do in your product. And level 4? Well, that's the holy grail. That's when you can walk into any room and confidently tie your work directly to revenue.
Okay, so we figured out the where. Now let's dig into the what. We know the different stages of maturity, so let's break down the actual metrics you need to track. The best way to think about it is in 3 layers, with each one building on the one before it.
First up, at the very bottom, we have Layer 1, Activity Metrics. These are your foundational data points. You gotta have them. They tell you if the lights are on. You know, are people even showing up and clicking around?
And these are the ones we all know, and, well, we know them. Course starts, completion rates, time spent. I like to think of these as gym check-ins. It's awesome to know that people are swiping their card at the front desk, but it doesn't prove they got a good workout in, right? So they're necessary, for sure, but they're definitely not enough. Now we're moving up the pyramid. This is where your metrics really start to pull their weight. Behavioral metrics are all about connecting the dots. We're looking for proof that because someone took your training, they actually do something different inside your product. This is where we measure stuff that shows a real change. Are certified users adopting key features faster? Are people who took the advanced course submitting fewer how-to support tickets? When you can answer yes to those questions, that's when you have real proof that your learning programs are working.
Let's just zoom in on feature adoption rate for a second, because this is so important. The secret sauce here is how you define the word used. Seriously, don't just track a click. That's meaningless. Define used as a really meaningful action, something like they created an API key and made a successful call. When you do that, the metric becomes so much more powerful and credible.
And finally, we get to the top, the peak of the pyramid, strategic metrics. This is it. This is the language of the C-suite. These are the numbers that directly connect your customer education efforts to the financial health and the biggest goals of your entire company.
We're talking about the heavy hitters here. Net revenue retention, time to value, a provable lift in customer retention. I mean, can you imagine walking into your next big meeting and showing a chart that links your certification program to a 7% reduction in churn? You're not asking for a budget anymore. You're presenting a slam dunk investment case. Now, you might be looking at these benchmarks and thinking, wow, are those real? And yeah, they are. They're a great sanity check. They show you what's possible. A 7.4% lift in retention, a 6.2% bump in revenue. That's awesome. But remember, the most important data in the world is your own. Use these numbers as inspiration, and then go prove it with your own customers.
Okay, so theory is great, but how do we actually put this stuff into practice? Let's make it real.
We'll walk through a quick case study and then a concrete action plan so you can build your own ROI dashboard.
So let me tell you about a company we'll call Sasquatch. They had this awesome but really complex enterprise product. And they had a huge problem. A ton of customers were churning right around the 90-day mark. The reason? Implementations were stalling, and their customers' admins were just getting totally overwhelmed. Sound familiar to anyone?
Now, their solution was just brilliant because it was so targeted. They didn't just create another generic course. They built a very specific API certification path aimed directly at the engineers and admins who were getting stuck. It was all hands-on, task-based, and it tackled the root cause of their churn head-on.
And the result? Exactly what you'd hope. A massive drop in that day 90 churn for accounts that got certified. But here's the really fascinating part, the big insight. It wasn't just if a customer got certified that mattered, it was when. They found that getting one engineer certified early on was way more valuable than getting 3 certified later. Timing was absolutely everything.
So, how can you do something like this? Here's your 5-step playbook. And please, look at step 1. This is so critical. Don't start with your data. Start with the business goals. Go talk to your chief revenue officer. Find out what keeps them up at night. Then map your metrics to that, get your tech talking, prove it with good analysis, and set up a regular reporting rhythm.
Okay, let's get just a little bit technical for a second, because this part matters. You have to build what we call a truth pipeline. All that means is getting your LMS, your CRM like Salesforce, and your product analytics tool to all speak the same language. The non-negotiable part of this, you have to standardize your account and user IDs across all of those systems. It's the only way to get a single, credible version of the truth.
All right, get ready, because I promise you, as soon as you show your amazing data, somebody in that meeting is going to say this. It's called selection bias. The idea is that, hey, the customers who are eager to take training were already your best, most engaged customers. And you know what? It's a fair point. You can't get defensive. You have to be ready for it.
And here's how you handle it like a pro. The good news is, you don't need a PhD in statistics. Use practical methods like creating matched cohorts. All that means is you compare a group of your trained customers against a very similar group of untrained customers, same size, same industry. Or you can use timing controls, just like Sasquatch did. Compare the early learners to the late learners. This is how you build a credible, defensible case that can stand up to any scrutiny.
We've covered a ton of ground here, from maturity models all the way to cohort analysis. But listen, it all starts with just one small step. The goal isn't to build the perfect system overnight. The goal is progress, not perfection. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. What's your first win going to be? What's that one achievable thing you can do to start proving the incredible value your team delivers every single day?